It's Monday, October 28th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start here. Some of the topics we'll be covering today. Apple is all over the news. We'll start off by relaying the warning they have for the iPhone 5 users in the world. And also, rumors are heating up about the impending release of some Apple AirPods. And speaking of product launches, early retail images have emerged of DJI's Mavic Mini, with one of the key aspects being that it's just under the weight requirements to register with the FAA. And some people in Michigan received a surprise when a Samsung Space Selfie satellite balloon crashed into their property. We'll walk through what happened and see if your selfie is safe. And some great guests in New York today, as we'll be joined by three actors from the new show from Apple TV Plus, For All Mankind, which reimagines the space race as though the Soviets had won. All of that and more coming up on Digital Trends Live. That is a lot of information just in that little aspect that we talked about today.
I don't even know how to unpack it all.
There's so much. There's so much to do, and that's what we do here every day at Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is our live show here from Digital Trends, where we bring you the trending tech topics of the day, news, interviews, headlines, discussions, and so much more, all while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and we're at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're finding us, you can join in the conversation. Drop in your comments as we go throughout the show. But let's start it off right now. I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Nicole Rainey. Hello, Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning. A lot happening over the weekend. A lot to kind of set up for, I feel like, what's going to be a big week in tech.
It sounds like there's a lot going on, especially with Apple, too.
Apple
is
exciting. All over the news. And let's start it off with that, with some Apple news right now. And the first thing we have to talk about is actually not about a new product. It's about all of you out there who still have iPhone 5s. This is a big thing that Apple is doing a massive push to release information about the iPhone 5, in that you have to update it if you are still using it. And surprisingly, there are a lot of people still using it.
Yeah, enough that Apple had to send out a push notification to remind them. So you have until Sunday, November 3rd, which is this upcoming Sunday, to update your iOS, or you won't be able to, like browse the web or anything else.
Yeah, pretty much everything. Yeah, no longer able to browse the web, explore the App Store, send email, access iCloud, or all these other features. But you need to update your operating system to version 10.3.4. Now, again, it seems like this should be, people who are still on the iPhone 5s, it seems like that would not be that many, but it is a surprising number. And that's kind of the big thing here, is that how many people still use it. I suppose that goes to speak to the quality of the iPhones.
I mean, we're so used to, new iPhones coming out every year. Like, we're on the 10, 11, 12, range at this point.
Right.
But over 70 million units of the iPhone 5 were sold, and that was still only about 2013 or 2012.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of makes sense that a lot of these phones are still floating around.
Still out there right now.
I mean, you can still buy an iPhone 5 right now.
You can, yeah. We took a look beforehand. They're on sale all over the place. So if you are one of those people using it, this is, again, the big news that Apple is pushing out. It's trending story today that they want you to update your phone. It's probably a good idea. Moving on, though, from that's part of what Apple's been talking about today. The other thing is the impending possible release of new AirPods. Now, Apple hasn't confirmed it. We had thought that maybe originally it was thought that the AirPods, a new version would come out maybe in March of next year, but there are a lot of rumors coming out about it releasing even by the end of this week, which would probably go in kind of time with the Apple TV Plus release. But this is what we're looking at. So this is potentially the new design, some key components of it. This would either be an AirPods 3 or an AirPods Plus or Pro version.
I think the rumor that I'm most excited about is definitely the water resistance, right? Because a lot of people try to use their AirPods whenever they're working out, but they've been kind of worried about all the sweat that could get in. So if these were actually water resistant or waterproof, I think you'd be able to use them in more situations.
And which would bring them kind of up to speed with some of the competitors in this space. I mean, obviously the AirPods have been the best-selling wireless earbud out there. They're certainly at the leader, one of the leaders, if not the leader. There's certain categories where other competitors, though, are catching up, including, you have Samsung's with their Galaxy Buds. I don't know if they're quite to this level of AirPods. I'd leave that to our experts, our reviews on the site. But then you also have Sony and Jabra and other companies that have these different versions that are out there. And that waterproof factor is key. If you're going to use these for everyday activities, you got to have some kind of waterproofing.
Supposedly, they're also supposed to be noise canceling, which
Yes.
would be really, really interesting because there's not really like a seal in the current version of the AirPods right now.
Yeah.
So how they're going to be able to manage the noise canceling on top of all of this is going to be really interesting. So maybe we'll find out later this week, or maybe we might have to wait for spring.
Yeah, I think they'll have to come out with some kind of a silicone tip to it, and which would address actually a lot of issues that do come up about the AirPods, and it's that fit factor. Just if you don't have exactly the right size of ears, they may not fit exactly perfectly, which is why those silicone tips really come into play. But that does also allow you to then go into that realm of maybe some noise canceling and maybe some more waterproofing. A lot that you could do with that. The report that's coming out now is if they do launch at the end of this week, again, it could be either AirPods 3, AirPods Pro, we don't know. AirPods Pro seems to be the one that people are leaning more toward, and the price could be as high as $260, which should definitely put it into a premium above premium category, because right now the regular AirPods are around $200, give or take, what version you get. But yes, that would definitely be going up to a very pricey set of AirPods. And I'm curious of what people think about that, if that's something you would want to buy with all of these additions, if that happens.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Like, I'm not an iPhone user, so I
Yeah.
don't have that kind of like Apple ecosystem to rely on.
Right.
But since there's so many other competitors in that space, like you already mentioned, I don't know if $260 would be the thing to get me, the thing to push me over the edge to actually buying a pair of these, you know?
Yeah, well, it's what we're going to have to wait to see to find out. I'm sure we'll be getting more information as we go throughout the week. And like we were saying, Apple's in the news for a lot. And we're going to be talking about Apple TV Plus a little bit later on the show. We actually have 3 actors from the new show For All Mankind who are going to be on the show. So that's talking about a new show that's going to be launching on Apple TV Plus. But going from that, with the impending streaming wars with Apple TV Plus coming out, there is now news that one of the competitors may be getting out of the game. And this is not exactly quite the same as Apple TV Plus as far as the original programming, but definitely one of the first companies out there to start streaming television, and that is PlayStation. And PlayStation Vue is a service that they've had for, I believe, about 5 years now, to where you can actually stream regular cable content online, and this is something that now they are saying they might want out.
I mean, it makes sense, though. I mean, think about everything else that you have to compete against nowadays, and I think that the word that you said was original, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at Apple. You already have Netflix and Hulu. You already have so many different streaming platforms, and a lot of these offer original content. Whereas PlayStation Vue was just more of a cable meets streaming situation that was really awesome when it first launched, but I don't know if they can really keep up with all these other competitors if they're not giving something new.
Yeah, it's that aspect. I mean, I'll say this: I'm actually a subscriber to PlayStation Vue right now. I liked it just because I could get the cable service, regular cable, but I didn't have to go through one of the other competitors that you would say out there for regular cable. So I still got all of the programming that I wanted, but then it's got a bunch of different factors. You can fast forward, rewind. It's got a few of those things in there, but the price is not the greatest.
It's like $50 starting
Yeah.
out for the base package, $50 a month. That's kind of a lot.
It is
Although,
kind of a lot.
like you mentioned, being able to stream like ESPN and things like that, I think that was a big draw at the very beginning. Like I almost got
Yep.
PlayStation Vue simply because of sports streaming.
And that's what it is. Sports and news is really what a lot of it was, because I like that live programming. But that's not really a big thing for some people. And if that's not for you, then this probably wouldn't be something you'd even subscribe to. There's so many different streaming services out there. It's like you brought up, all of that original programming. You would go, pick a la carte, your Netflix or HBO or whatever other ones you want, and then that makes up your bundle. And that's why I do want to know what people think about this, if this is something that even you subscribe to. Surprisingly, it's only about 500,000 households, it sounds like, subscribe to PlayStation Vue, so I'm in a
And you're one of
select
them?
group. Yeah. And there are competitors of PlayStation Vue out there. There's Hulu, there's YouTube Live, and there's also Sling. Sling is another big one. I think part of it is for PlayStation 4 users. If you use that as your platform to access your content, those other services were not allowed on there. So that was one way that they kind of sandwiched you into it. And I'm not going to lie, that kind of pushed me in that direction. So now, though, if it's going to go, the rumor is that it might be sold to some potential competitors. They reached out, it sounds like, to Fubo TV, which is mainly a sports-oriented streaming service. And there's a lot of services out there that I would think would be in the market for this, maybe not necessarily for the 500,000 subscribers like me, or they would be more likely to be going after the actual platform itself, the actual software.
And we don't actually know that View's going to go, right? It just
Right.
means that Sony is looking to sell it. So a different competitor that picks it up, it means hopefully those 500,000 people, including Greg, will just be transferred to another platform.
I like how
So
we
it'll be
made this story
similar
just about me.
access, but maybe hopefully a little bit cheaper. I don't know.
Right.
What do you think? What do you want to unsubscribe now? Is
I
it
mean,
a different service you want?
Really, it's the live programming. The live programming is what I'm after, and that's what may separate it out. Yeah, I'm just taking a look at some of the comments coming through, just talking about how much it costs, to get all of that. So if there's a better competitor out there, sure. Yeah, I would go for that. But I'm just curious to see where this goes, because I think bigger picture is this is kind of a sign of where we're going with these streaming wars. With Apple TV Plus coming out, with Disney Plus coming out, both in the next, Apple TV Plus the end of this week, Disney Plus in another couple of weeks, November 12th, I believe it launches. We're going to start seeing more and more of this, because how do they all compete in this same space? And especially if you don't have original programming, that's going to be a big knock, I feel like, when it comes down to this, especially with how cheap some of them are coming out of the gate. They're not all going to stay this cheap, but the optics, when you look at how much you pay for one service versus get a whole bunch of them for a much lower price, seems like that's probably where people are going to go. And looks like PlayStation kind of sees the writing on the wall when it comes to that. But we'll follow along with that story. You can stay up to date at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on, we did talk about some product releases. We do have some images now of a new drone from DJI, and it is the Mavic Mini. So this is one that's been anticipated for a while, and there were some images that released on Newegg Canada, Newegg's Canadian store site, of all places, where it looks like somebody probably hit post a little too early. And we got to see some of the images of this new drone, and it's really, really small.
It's so small that you don't actually have to register it as like a drone. So the whole idea is it's maybe like 1 gram less than the requirements to register it, to fly it.
Yeah.
So if you get something like this, I think you have a little bit more freedom as
Yeah.
far as like where and how you can use it. That is until they probably change the regulations again to make sure you have to register this too.
Right, and that's such a big thing to me, is coming in there. I believe it's 1 gram under it. I'll double check what the weight was. Yeah, so the weight limit that you need is 250 grams or 8.8 ounces. That's the cutoff where the FAA says, you have to register this. Coming in at 249 grams, I wonder if that's just a shocking coincidence, is this Mac Mini. And that's going to be a really, Mavic Mini. Mavic Mini. And that's going to be something that I want to see as we go forward, is how many other companies try to do this and skirt these regulations, and why are they doing it? What are these being used for?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of curious too, because a lot of people use drones, obviously, like for photography or videography.
Yep.
So unlike some of the brand's other offerings, which like records in 4K, this is going to be around like 2.7K, I think. So you're not going to have as high quality picture, but maybe you have some more versatility, because the drone is so small that pictures say it's about the size of your hand, or like maybe like the size of a smartphone.
Wow. I just wonder how it handles weather or wind.
Yeah.
It's that small. I mean, certainly DJI knows what they're doing. I'm going to guess it probably handles it pretty well. But just to have something that small that you can pack in, they did say, 2.7K rather than 4K, and they said that's probably partly not to cannibalize their own sales of their other drones. So if you want the upgraded version, you still have to buy something else. But this sounds like it's a lot packaged into a small package. A lot in a small package. And the price, based on what the leak was on this Canadian site, is about $494 US. And we'll have to see, when this actually does roll out, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, the brand has an announcement on Wednesday, October 30th, so we should be hearing a lot more then, or maybe get some of these details confirmed, because all of this is based off of like leaked photos and that linked retail listing, so we should know more by Wednesday.
So you can follow along with that at digitaltrends.com. And the final thing we want to talk about here before we take a break and come back for some Read 'em and weep. Another listing now from Uber. So Uber has made it clear, and they've made statements about this, that they want to eventually be the one app that you go to for everything. And they're slowly combining all of their apps. Uber Eats is combining with regular Uber. And now there is a new service that they are testing out in San Francisco right now called Uber Moments. And this is what it would be. It's essentially experiences kind of along the lines of what Airbnb launched, where it's like, okay, no, you're already here, but go try out these different things, these different services, different experiences. And that's what Uber's trying out with this, in that you would essentially be able to book like a cooking class, or you can book a large dinner for a bunch of people through it and get reservations.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting that the comparisons are being made with Airbnb experiences, right? Because the idea is you rent an Airbnb, and then Airbnb and the locals would be able to maybe suggest, oh yeah, go to that restaurant, or like book this class with this person because I know him. I feel like Uber Moments is a little bit more like Groupon.
Okay.
Because like how often do you use Uber Eats in a different city? Like, don't you usually like mostly use it at work or in the place that you live? And so now they're basically offering like discounts for like classes and meals and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see. Uber didn't actually confirm that they were testing it. It's just people in San Francisco can see that option on their app right now.
Yeah, and Uber just kind of backed off and didn't say anything about it, but it's there.
Yeah.
People have it, and they said that the testing's going to be running till November 17th, and then they'll figure out what worked, what didn't work. But this is more of that push for everything to be on Uber. I mean, they already list, like I said, the regular Uber, original Uber, I guess, where you can still do that on there, but they also have their scooters. They're going to be integrating even the bus schedules of cities, so mass transportation too, saying that they can be the end-to-end for each of those and have that be the connecting piece. But a lot that's going into this in that push to be your one and only app that you go to for everything. So it'll be interesting to see what else they reveal.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if this goes into any other cities too, since it's just San Francisco right now. I mean, we'll see.
I bet it will. I bet this is something that will take off, that they'll end up using. But let us know what you think about that. You can always leave your comments and your questions on whatever platform you are watching, or of course go check out all of the articles at digitaltrends.com to read up further on everything that we bring up here. I know we need to get to a break though, because we have to come back and do some Read 'em and Weep. This is where we take a look at some of those comments that come through our platforms and on others, what people are talking about. We'll analyze it a little bit. We haven't seen them yet. We're going to see it live with you. So stick around. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. This is the show where we broadcast live every single weekday. And right now, we're going to take a look at some of the comments that come through across our many different platforms and the internets in general, because this is Read 'em and Weep. And we're going to read some of these comments with you. I'm Greg Nibbler here with Nicole Rainey.
Hello.
Hello. Let's take a look at what the people have to say. Nicole, sometimes we weep, sometimes we don't.
Mostly laugh.
Mostly laugh. This is from Kazakhstan. Apparently, the country of Kazakhstan is posting this. Today is National Chocolate Day. Have you ever had Kazakhstan chocolate? The most popular bar is made by a Kazakh company that has been around for over 76 years. # Chocolate Day. Okay. Didn't know it was National Chocolate Day. Is that just for Kazakhstan? It's Kazakhstan's National Chocolate Day?
I'm assuming so, right? They wouldn't necessarily post about like the United States National Chocolate Day.
Yes, that is true. So, okay, I'm getting word, breaking news, it's apparently other countries as well. It's not just Kazakhstan.
Should be International Chocolate Day.
International Chocolate Day would probably be a better way, to say that. But no, I have not tried Kazakhstan chocolate. I didn't know that came from. I didn't know that was a thing. So, Kazakhstan, send us some chocolate. All right, Hella Marbuska. Regarding National Chocolate Day, my controversial chocolate opinions. Reese's peanut butter cups are good. White chocolate is disgusting. Sea salt on chocolate is delicious. Most caramel chocolate combos aren't good. Milky Way an exception. Nutella is like licking a hazelnut's butthole.
You know,
Okay.
I've actually had me for every single one of these except the last one because Nutella is delicious. How dare you?
Otherwise, I'm pretty on
Yeah.
board with most
White
of this.
chocolate is disgusting.
Yeah, depending on where it's in.
No,
yeah.
all white chocolate. All,
white
chocolate is disgusting.
All white chocolate. Reese's is the best, though. Yeah, you have to agree. All right, Sandra, hashtag things we are never meant to know what the end of The Sopranos is all about.
What?
I
feel like
mean-
that one's pretty obvious.
Wait, what do you think happened?
Well, I mean, spoiler alert. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think
I'm
we
assuming
can
most
spoil a
everybody. But
20-year-old
yeah,
television show.
Tony dies. Tony
think so?
dies.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Stop
so, too.
tuning in if you haven't seen it yet. But Tony dies.
Yeah,
I feel like it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think that's probably what happens. Yeah, I
If
would
we're
go
not
with
meant
that.
to know it, I know it.
Right, right. No, that Tony died. Well, I mean, I think there's what I want to know is the end of Dexter. That's the one that I still don't understand. Dexter was worse than Sopranos. That was a worse ending, and I love that show, but that was worse. All right, we could get into that for a while. But Sandra, I don't know what hashtags things we are never meant to know must be a trending thing on Twitter right now. I will be going down that rabbit hole later. Sandra, what our toothbrush looks like under a microscope? Oh no.
Yeah.
No, that's
That
not
seems
something
more accurate.
anybody
I
needs
don't
to
want to know that.
I do not want to know. That is something I would just rather leave that to be a mystery of life. And
I have a mental picture, and I hope that my mental picture is worse than what it actually looks like.
yeah, thanks to Sandra, I have a mental picture now too that I'm forming in my mind, and I don't want to know it. And I'm going to be throwing away my toothbrush after this episode. So. All right, Sandra, thank you. We're again taking a look at Twitter, some of the trending topics. Why superheroes wear tights?
Okay, I feel like I got a take on this one again.
Okay.
Range of motion, right? It's so much easier. You don't.
Exactly.
I think it was Edna in the Incredibles said you don't wear capes because capes could get caught in stuff, right? You wear tights because if baggy clothing could get caught in stuff.
It's true, but except for I agree with that 100%. Except capes look badass, so I feel like you have to put the cape on there.
I'm not saying capes are bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying she said that you weren't supposed to wear them because you get caught in stuff.
If capes were socially acceptable, I would wear a cape to work every single day. I mean, I'm just saying, capes are just cool. But I do understand. Yes, the tight thing. It's for that mobility. If you're flying, you got to cut down on wind resistance.
Yeah, exactly.
So it actually does matter in that aspect. It's not like some of the weekend warriors that wear their spandex suits going biking. It's not going to help you. But this would make sense when you're flying 150 miles an hour. You need that slick
Needs to be streamlined.
spandex suit. Things I thought I would never say on show. All right. Barcaromo? ? If you're not sure, I'm not sure. All right. Things we're never meant to know. The smell of sex. Oh,
It works
God.
90% of the time, all the time.
I think
I don't know if that's the right percentage, but
it's close enough. The descriptions that were given in that movie, I think, are enough to form that mental picture.
yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, no. I think that's something better left unknown as a mystery for the world. All right, it looks like that is what we have for Read 'em and Weep. And again, this is where we take a look at some of the comments and questions that come through across different platforms and trending topics online. And we thank everybody who leaves your comments on whatever platform you are watching on. Before we talk about what our next guest is going to be talking about, first I want to say thank you, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Coming up next, we're going to be talking to Dara Tressiter, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Carbon, and talking about the changing way that products are made. Customization is such a huge thing for all of us, and now, thanks to advancements in 3D printing and some different changes in the way that polymers are actually handled, we can be very customized. You can customize things very well, and that is what we're going to be discussing. So things along that aspect. If you have questions, if you have comments, you want to drop those on whatever platform you are watching. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you for joining us. We broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, discussions, and interviews about trending technology topics. And right now, we're going to be talking about the changing way that we want our products customized, how our business is able to further manage that and actually change up the way that polymers work to make these products. Let's get into that a little bit more. And to do that, we have an expert who's joining us right now. We have Dara Treseder, Chief Marketing Officer for Carbon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to give everybody just a little bit of a background on your company, if you don't mind walking through what Carbon is, and then maybe a description for everyone to understand where the market's at right now when it comes to these products.
Absolutely. Carbon is the world's leading digital manufacturing platform. We bring together innovations in software, hardware, and material science to enable companies to create breakthrough products that they couldn't make any other way. We allow companies to do data-informed design, translating data into better performing products and products that are also more custom or bespoke for individuals.
Like you said there at the beginning, that's combining a lot of different areas of business into one. Can we go into that just a little bit more to get a better understanding of what kind of products we're talking about? I see some behind you there. I'm guessing maybe that's part of it, but to give everybody just an idea.
These are examples of some of the products that we've made. Absolutely. So it's basically what we do is we use software to program liquid resins to grow parts from liquid. It's pretty amazing. Any fans of Terminator 2, you'll remember that scene where you have the liquid rising, which is pretty much sci-fi, but we've made that into reality. And because this is a software-controlled chemical reaction, we're able to create complex geometries that you could not make any other way. Complex geometries that allow the products to have superior, unparalleled performance, whether it's a running shoe or a bike saddle or a helmet. And these are just examples, a few examples of some of the amazing products that we make.
That is that visual now that I have in my own head, just about Terminator 2. That's incredible. So talking about what you're doing right here. So how did it? I guess really quick, just for comparison, how did it work before? And now that you do have this, what are companies actually utilizing it for?
Absolutely. So companies are using this to accelerate product innovation, right? Before digital manufacturing platforms, this category came on the scene, what you had was 3D printing. And 3D printing has traditionally been just for prototyping. It wasn't able to cross that chasm of going into production. We at Carbon, we've enabled that. So we've been able to create products that have the desired mechanical properties. And so it's been really an amazing journey to go from not just accelerating product innovation at the development phase, but being able to really carry that through into production.
Yeah, I was just thinking one aspect there, you talked about the development phase, because that's always such a key thing, right? Being able to customize something and create it in this aspect. So companies, let's walk through a little bit more of what you do with this Crafted by Carbon. I wanted to kind of get into that. If you could explain what that is. And then I want to walk through the process for a company out there who has an idea, who wants to make something crazy or unique, and how they would get that made through this process.
Absolutely. So Crafted by Carbon is our ingredient brand. And essentially what it symbolizes is a better performing product, a product that is made in a way that delivers not only superior performance for the consumer, but also protects the planet, keeps the planet in mind. That's what Crafted by Carbon is. It's a promise. And our customers use this ingredient brand when they create products with our technology to signal to the market that this is a next gen product, a product of the future. What's next? That's already been made with incredible technology and a deep concern and care for the environment. So that's what Crafted by Carbon really means.
Let's
And
walk. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, can we walk through that a little bit more about the environmental side and why this is better for the environment of going through this way of creating
absolutely.
products?
It's a journey, and we're very much still at the beginning phase of that journey. But one of the things that's so important to us is we have a chance to change the way products are designed, engineered, delivered, and made. And we want to do it right. We want to make sure that we're protecting our planet. We want to make sure that we're not only thinking about what materials are we creating and um, how are those materials impacting the environment, but we also want to make sure that we have the processes in place that allow those materials to be able to be returned to earth, if you will, in a way that is not harmful to the environment, because we all know that plastics and polymers can be harmful if we don't think about it from the beginning. So now that we're creating this new way of making things, moving into high volume production, top of mind for us is this commitment to the environment. It's a core part of our values. It's a core part of our technology. It's a core part of our product roadmap. And we haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm really proud of the commitment that we've made and the accomplishments we've made. We recently released a new material called RPU 130, a rigid polyurethane that allows you to have industrial grade strength, even with this digital manufacturing technology, which is absolute breakthrough for the industry. And I'm so proud of that material because it's partially derived from plants. It's partially derived in a more sustainable way. And so as we continue these advancements in material science, it's going to help us make sure that what we're making isn't just better for people, it's also better for the planet.
I want to touch on a couple of things that you just talked about there. One, you brought up the fact that you can make this high volume amount, and this technology seems really complex and really complicated to have all of these made. What kind of volume can you produce with this?
Well, we're making millions of parts in certain for certain customers. So really, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
And I think we're continuing to learn, because at first, digital manufacturing platforms, when we first kind of came on the scene, it wasn't no one believed that using this type of technology you could make millions of a particular part. But we're doing it today. And we're doing it in factory type settings. And we're working with our ecosystem of partners, strategic contract manufacturers that are now able to really ramp up and scale up in certain market segments, especially in the areas of oral health and performance and protection.
Going from this, this idea of customization is such a huge thing for a lot of people, and it doesn't matter even what field you're in. Customization is something that consumers want. And looking at this kind of technology going forward, how do you see this changing the way that we order products to that level going forward, say, in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think that the future is clear, right? I think it's not going to happen tomorrow,
Right.
but we're going to go to a situation where we have what we call here at Carbon a warehouse in the cloud, right? Where we have a warehouse in the cloud. The parts that you've designed are stored in the cloud, just like we have our files stored in the cloud today, right? Our music is stored in the cloud, our books are stored in the cloud, our products will be stored in the cloud. And eventually, different companies will be able to produce what they need where they need it, local for local production. And we're actually starting to see ourselves moving down that path even today. In many parts of the developed world where it was thought that manufacturing was going away, where people are purchasing our technology and they're bringing manufacturing back. They're starting to make new types of products, design amazing type of products. And it's really incredible to see what's happening, in parts of the world where we had initially thought that manufacturing was dead. It's not dead. It's reinvented itself, and it's coming about in a new way, in a more creative way, in a more technologically advanced way that's better for people and the planet.
Speaking of the planet, and we just did have a question that came through here from one of our live viewers, George, who said, what are the challenges I face with
Hi, George.
Hello, George. With prototyping is proper disposal of materials. Is recycling of your products part of your strategy?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the great advancements that we've been working on right now in our materials lab is creating more recyclable resins, and not just thinking about the recyclability of the product, but also how we bake in the right business processes and business models to incentivize our customers and our partners to leverage the advancement that we're making in all of their the different product choices. So we're really thinking about recyclability, not just from the technological standpoint, but also from the business standpoint, because we strongly, again, we strongly believe in sustainability. We don't just think it's the right thing to do; we think it's the smart thing to do. And so we're really thinking about recyclability in a 360-degree way. How does it impact the customer? How does it impact the business? And how does it impact the environment?
Well, Dara, I want to ask for everybody out there who wants to learn more information, what's the best place for them to go to find out about carbon?
Well, the best place to go is to our website. If you go to www.carbon3d.com, you can learn more about carbon, learn more about our technology. And if you're someone out there who's thinking about how do I make the next breakthrough product? How do I accelerate product innovation? Do reach out to us, because we do a lot of work helping the world's leading brands, world leading companies think about what's next and help them to bring that brighter future closer faster.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. Really fascinating discussion, learning about how this process works. Congratulations on the success right now, and I'm really excited to see where this technology goes in the future. Thanks so much for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so really interesting discussion, figuring out how all that works and what we can do, what the possibilities are that are there. That's really incredible. And also, thank you to George. So that reminds everybody that we are interactive. You can drop in your comments or questions throughout this show, and we will ask them directly, because that's what we do here at Digital Trends Live. We're listening to what you're saying, and you're part of this show just as much as we are. So we appreciate everybody who joins us. And coming up next, we have Davin Matthews, who's going to be in here to talk about a new product. Every time he brings something awesome in that is usually expensive, and I don't want to break it, but we have the GoPro Max 360 camera, another 360-degree camera we're going to have in here, so we'll be walking through that. So if you have questions about it, drop them in. We'll ask him directly. So he's coming back in here. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. So we are live, and that means we can bring breaking technology news to you. So earlier in the show, we talked about the Apple AirPods, whether they were going to be the AirPods 3 or the AirPods Pro. Well, right after we did that, I'm sure Apple was watching. They decided to announce it, and this is the official announcement. So it is going to be the AirPods Pro. Apple's announced that these are coming out on October 30th. They're going to be $249. Pre-sale has just started, so you can order them for pre-sale right now. We're learning this right now live on the show. They'll have built-in microphones into the AirPods Pro that detect external sound, and the earbuds then cancel it out, so they will have some of that noise canceling capability that we were talking about. I want to see if they do have any of the waterproofing, because that's going to be a huge thing. They're going to have something called Adaptive EQ that automatically tunes the music to the shape of your ear. Another big thing when it comes to the customization of just all of the different earbuds, the wireless earbuds in particular, is being able to do that. Looks like they're going to have the silicone tip, so that's going to be something different than they had before. There it is right there. That's key. if you really want something to be customized sound, and if you want to be able to tune out and have some kind of noise cancellation, that's going to be huge. Apple said they'll get about 4.5 hours of continuous listening battery life. And then that's probably part of that active noise cancellation, I'm going to guess, is what reduces that, because that's kind of on the lower end when you talk about a high-end EarPod. The case has an extra 24 hours, so that's part of it too. This sounds like, okay, they're sweat and water resistant. And again, just taking a look here as the news comes out and letting you know, they said they have an expanded mesh microphone port that improves call clarity in windy situations. So a lot of news there about these. $249, so that's what we've got so far. We'll see if we can get more information. But you can always follow up at digitaltrends.com and let us know what you think. But there it is. That's breaking news right here on Digital Trends Live. That's the key, live. We can bring that to you. All right, and this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we will continue on now by talking about some more brand new technology. And to do that, we have Davin Matthews. Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Every time you come in here, you have something new and cool and an amazing thing that I want to play around with. And what we have right now is the latest from GoPro.
Yeah, so this is the GoPro Max. It's their 360 camera. It's kind of the counterpart to the Hero 8 Black that I had on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they announced these at the same time. This was a little slower to roll out. But basically, this is expanding on the Fusion, which was their first 360 camera. And this is basically taking what they learned with that, making it smaller, lighter, easier to use, and actually $200 cheaper.
Wow.
So this is $500. Fusion launched at $700, I believe. So, yeah, so it's definitely a good step forward. You know, it's nice to see that GoPro is still trying to innovate with 360.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask about that, just as far as the 360 side, because we'll go into some of the specifics too. And again, you can drop in your comments or your questions too, since we are live. Is 360-degree filming, is that still something that is moving along and advancing, or did it kind of stutter a little bit?
Yeah, it is something that's still moving along. It also still seems like something that doesn't have a ton of interest in it.
Yeah.
One of the things that GoPro is really focused on with the Max, which we've seen other companies like Rilo and Insta360 do, is they're looking at capturing 360 for the purpose of then reframing traditional 2D fixed frame output.
Okay.
So what that means is you can take in everything around you, and then you can kind of be the director later and choose the angle you want, and then render this easily digestible video that has all these cool effects in it. So you can zoom in, you can pan, you can tilt, and it's pretty great. And I think the controls that GoPro has made for the Max are definitely some of the better ones out there. And it's way better than what they had for the Fusion. So you can actually set keyframes and choose your angle, and then it will automatically animate that pan and render that into a video. And it's pretty great. You know, it's still a 360 camera. It's still not something that everybody needs. I do think the Hero 8 Black is, you know, just as a standard action camera, is going to be more useful for more people.
Can we spin it around just to show some of the sides of it too?
I don't know if we can get a close-up on this, but there is a 16:9 screen built into this, and actually a...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting the screen in there.
You get the reflection. So that's actually, it's weird to talk about a screen on a camera these days, but this is actually something that's not on a lot of 360 cameras.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
because they're capturing everything around them, you don't really need to preview your shot because you just assume it's in frame. Yeah. But you can control the camera. It's a touch screen, and so it's very familiar to using another GoPro product. It's that same interface. And then, of course, you use the same app as well.
That's cool. So that integration is going to be really easy for somebody who's already using GoPro products.
And you can use this as a standard GoPro Hero camera, so they actually call it Hero mode, and that will just make one lens active of the two.
Okay.
And that way you still get some of the benefits, like it has very good stabilization because you have such a wide field of view. It can adjust that stabilization. So you get great stabilization, and you get that ultra-wide perspective, so they call it Max Super View, which is something that is going to be even wider than what you can get on a GoPro. which is already really wide. So yeah, it's a cool little camera. I've been playing around with it briefly. Haven't had a chance to do a ton with it yet. They sent it to me while I was on vacation, so didn't get to it. But
Should've got it to you just before you went on vacation.
yeah.
So you said, I'm just looking through some of the statistics here myself, looking at it. So $500. What does it shoot in? I guess that's a good. That's kind of a question I had. So what resolution?
So it shoots in 360. It shoots 5.6K.
Okay.
But you have to keep in mind those pixels are kind of spread out around the spherical area. So for reference, if you're just using one lens, it'll output 1080p.
Okay.
So if you want more resolution, you definitely will get that with the Hero 8, which can do 4K from its one lens. But the benefit of this is that you can reframe, you can get all those perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah, get the full picture and then adjust it later on.
And it's definitely, what I've seen so far, it's not the same pixel level detail that you're going to get with the Hero 8 Black, but it's not bad. It's certainly one of the better, compact 360 cameras that are out there. You do still have the stitching line, which can show up. So if you're just holding it by hand,
really?
you can kind of see where it,
Where it cuts off?
it gets together. Again, not the worst I've seen, but it is still something that's
noticeable.
there, and it's still an issue with 360 in general. So, yeah, it's still a 360 camera.
Right. Not getting beyond that.
It's not for everyone, but it is pretty neat, and it's a big leap ahead from the Fusion.
So a couple other questions on it. You mentioned the in-camera stitching. So that's something that all 360 cameras are dealing with.
Yeah. So nowadays, that's basically any camera like this is going to stitch either in camera or in the mobile app. The Fusion, the problem with that is actually had two separate micro SD cards. So one lens would shoot to one, the other lens would shoot to the other. This now just has a single micro SD card. They've brought that processing inside the camera. So you do get better results, even just using your phone, than you did with the Fusion. So with the Fusion, you had to edit. You didn't have to, but in order to get the best results, you had to edit on the desktop, and it was a cumbersome, slow
I was going to say, that
process.
sounds like a real pain.
It was not user-friendly at all. So
Yeah. So this helps with that a little bit, I guess.
yes, a lot.
$500. When does this come out? When is it available?
It's listed in retailers now, but I'm not sure when it's actually shipping.
Gotcha.
I want to say November, so soon.
Yeah, but you can order it now.
Yeah.
And any other thing that you want people to know? Does it come with the? I'm assuming it comes with the tripod on it too, or no? Or maybe that's an expanded pack. Sorry,
Yeah, I don't know if it includes this because the way they sent out their review kits are kind of with this extra accessory
Gotcha,
pack.
everything that comes
So
with
what they sent me was not the actual retail box.
Gotcha. So yeah, we'll have to see if that actually comes. I'm going to guess that, and then maybe that's an
You
addition.
usually get, like any GoPro, you at least get a couple of mounts in it. But yeah, I'm not sure if the mini selfie stick is included.
Okay.
It would make sense if it would be. You kind of need it if you're going to handhold a 360 camera, because otherwise you're covering the lens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to have that full view. Do you think that other companies are going to keep going forward with 360-degree cameras?
It is interesting because we've seen so much from younger companies, startups like Rilo, who made kind of the first 360 camera that let you reframe content. I'm really curious to see what those smaller companies do now that you have a brand like GoPro entering.
Yeah.
Well, not entering the space, but really now starting
Right.
to pick up pace. Because I think it is going to be harder for some of those smaller players to continue to compete and get their name out there. But yeah, I don't think it's going to go away. I think we might see, it's not going to be as Wild West as it has been. There were just like so many 360 cameras. They were all over Indiegogo and Kickstarter for a while. So hopefully we're going to start zeroing in on a few
on a few of
cleaner
them.
product lines. Yeah.
Well, now that we have this, I'm sure this is going to be the full review that'll go up.
Yeah. So I'm working on that now.
That out. Cool. Well, it's definitely a fascinating camera. I would love to see some more use cases of 360-degree videos and see what this shoots. Davin, as always, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for bringing us this and taking a look at it. And again, you can stay up to date with everything going on in photography or videography at digitaltrends.com. Davin plays with all the cool toys and then gets to tell us about them. It's pretty great. So you can check all that out. Digitaltrends.com. Here's what's coming up next. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to be talking to Robert Delf, who's the Chief Executive Officer of RightsLine, and we're talking about streaming wars, streaming content. This is such a huge topic today, but really it's just going to be heating up more and more the further we go on, with Apple TV Plus coming out, Disney Plus coming out, PlayStation Vue maybe selling. We're going to get into that in a little more of a detail. So if you do have questions, drop those in the comments. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you for joining us. We broadcast live, which means we can take your comments live as well. So if you have those, drop them in on whatever platform you are watching. And certainly something we talk a lot about here, and I think the entire tech industry, the entire entertainment industry is talking about, is the impending streaming content wars. Streaming television, streaming entertainment. It is something that is huge. We have Apple TV Plus that's going to be launching soon. You have Disney Plus that's entering into the fray. Two huge players. And what does that mean for the entire landscape of that? We're going to talk about that and more, because right now, joining us, we have Robert Delf, who is the CEO of RightsLine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, it's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. I really do. I'm excited to have this conversation. I get really excited about the TV streaming wars, what it's going to mean for all of us. But I want everybody to understand too what RightsLine is. Can you walk us through what the company does?
Sure, no problem. We're a software as a service platform that helps entertainment companies track where their rights are. So, in the advent of a streaming platform, we're enabling organizations big and small to figure out what they can put on individual channels, whether that's a new service or whether that's licensing them to other parts of the world internationally, et cetera.
Which is an incredibly complicated thing to manage. So,
yeah, I'm glad you recognize that. Sometimes it sounds simple, but there's so many ins and outs involved and restrictions and such. That we endeavor to make it simple.
Well, with all of these different streaming platforms that are launching, I mean, you have the big ones, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, those big ones launching, but then there's also smaller services. And with all of this coming out there, let's talk about the landscape in general and where you see it from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I'd say across our customer base, which is, the giants all the way down to smaller companies, everyone is sort of gearing their services and establishing their content so that they can supply these services direct to consumer. I think that that's in response to consumer demands. Really, we want to be able to pick and choose what we either pay for or what's ad supported in the future. But we certainly see a tremendous amount of consolidation of rights in a sense. So knowing exactly, if I'm Disney, I know exactly what I have all over the world to power my Disney Plus service. Same goes for a Fox or a Hulu or any of those big companies, all the way down to, say, smaller niche services that are just, an SVOD platform specializing in British murder mysteries. We're seeing that sort of that sort of niche targeting of the available content that you can watch, which is exciting for a consumer. Because, as opposed to getting those bundles that we used to get where you didn't watch 90% of the channels that were out there, Now, what really we can do is kind of micro target to our affinity group and watch what we truly want to watch, whether that's paid for or ad supported.
How is it? Is this impending battle or the battles that are going on? I shouldn't even say impending. I mean, it's going on right now. They're all,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, they're all battling each other. How important is original content for these platforms to survive versus acquiring the rights to shows? You know, the big ones like The Office. You have Friends, those kinds of ones. But there's all those different, all that programming that's out there. That's not The Office and Friends, but a lot of stuff that people can acquire to have on their service. How important is that balance? What seems to be the key push for them to survive in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in our world, we see the big licensing deals, and so does your viewership, right? I mean, you're every day in the news. There's yet another big deal for an iconic property,
Yep.
whether that's South Park, The Office, etc. You know, in my humble opinion, I really see kind of the Hulu's on the screen right now, but the Hulu model is a good example where there's really interesting, amazing content, original content being created, but also iconic content that's being licensed in. And I think that mix is always going to be there. With a Disney Plus, of course, they have the sort of tentpole properties like the Star Wars. That's just going to it's going to drive people to that platform, and that's original content based upon a brand that exists, right? So I think there's going to be a mix. As consumers, we always want to talk about the latest show and see that, but to drive kind of adoption for a platform, there is going to be this base of those iconic properties that have been licensed in to get people in the door, so to speak.
Looking at it from a broader context as well, when we talk about this, and how many services can survive or not, but you also have the actual cable industry. Original, standard cable is still competing in this space as well, and you see companies like PlayStation Vue was just announced today, or at least it's rumored that they may be looking to sell that property off to someone else, and that's kind of one that was one of those first ones to really directly compete with cable. How do you see that playing in, and cable's role in all of this?
I mean, I think that's an interesting one. We've two of the largest players, Comcast, AT&T, have jumped both feet in, with Warner Media and NBCU or Peacock, respectively. Again, I really see them as listening to consumer demand. So if you look at how we used to purchase cable, we would have an internet bundle, right? So we'd be paying some amount for that. And then we'd be subscribing to our, silver, gold, platinum packages that had 500 plus channels on them. And, in reality, we didn't watch a lot of those channels. So for the cable companies that have acquired entertainment companies, they're sort of hedging their bets, right? And I would suspect throughout as the future moves on, they're going to be listening to see what the customers are adopting or the consumer demand is adopting, and potentially scaling back different services. There's always going to be the consumer out there that really wants to flip through a lot of channels. Now that might be, going away over time. So that's sort of how I see that market.
So looking at it in another aspect too, just talking about managing the rights to all of this, going back to what you do specifically, with all of this different content, you said that it's complicated worldwide, but it's also pretty important, and correct me if I'm wrong, for a lot of these services like Netflix to have big subscriber bases outside of the U.S. as well. To compete in this global marketplace, especially as you see some of these other services going into that. What are some of the complications and challenges that these companies face doing so?
Sure. I think that what we look at is from an enterprise, like traditionally, a large studio would have different groups around the world that would be licensing and selling their content to different markets, right? Netflix really turned that model on its head in a sense, and they went out there and they were like, I want rights for worldwide distribution. That kind of wasn't done before Netflix came along, and that's the simplest possible case. With the major entertainment companies like like a Disney getting in there, they've had to go out to all their different territories where they've historically done individual licensing deals in a territory. So for the UK, this can be on Sky TV. For Turkey, this can be here. And pull those back to figure out what they could do on a global scale to launch Disney Plus in the US. Or, for example, they launched Disney Plus in the Netherlands a couple months ago as their test market. But again, they had to make sure they had all of the rights for all the content that they were going to put on that streaming platform, make sure it was all clear. And that is a pretty Herculean effort in terms of bringing both systems and processes together to ensure that when you're broadcasting something or streaming something in this case, it's all clear and good.
Well, that's one thing I'm really glad that we got to have this conversation too, just talking about how complicated it is behind the scenes. We all, for consumers, for people who want to watch television, we have this, plethora of options that are out there now and all of this amazing content, and the content's moving around to different services, but it takes a lot to make that happen. And I really appreciate you joining us to talk about, a little bit about what goes into that to get a better understanding of it. And for people who want to know more about what you do, what's the best place for them to go?
Absolutely go to our website. It's rightsline.com. It's on the screen there. And really, what we service is we service those enterprises. So anyone who's producing, distributing film and television content, we can help you navigate the always tricky, always interesting waters around, restrictions, holdbacks, rights in, rights out. That's what we live and breathe every day.
Well, Robert, thank you very much for joining us to talk about this. Really enjoyed the discussion, and thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, really, really interesting. So we talk a lot about the streaming wars. Where is it going? What's going to happen with it? Well, that's talking about some of the behind-the-scenes things that make this all move and why it's such a big deal for all these companies. All right, I know we need to take a break. We're going to come back here in just a minute. We got some more news for you that we're going to talk about. Coming up, we're talking about streaming services. Well, we have 3 actors who are in Apple TV Plus's new series. Yes, Apple TV Plus launches this week, so For All Mankind. We have 3 of those actors who are going to be in our New York studio. So that's coming up. More news, lots to talk about. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Let's keep you up to date on some trending stories in technology. So I've got some stuff that we're going to talk about in association with space technology. There's actually a lot that's trending today. One other thing, though, since we are live, we already brought you up to date that the Apple AirPods were announced. Since we started this show, they were announced about a half hour after we brought up that we thought they might be announced this week. So I count that as a win for us. The Apple AirPods were announced, though, so the AirPods Pro will be coming out at the end of this week, October 30th. Actually, 2 days. 2 days. So Wednesday is when they're going to be out. You can pre-order them now. Another trending story that we're just seeing right now is it looks like that Google is apparently making a heavy bid to purchase Fitbit to get into that smartwatch space and add into theirs, which makes sense. The Apple Watch is really the leader in that industry. Google's wanted to be more a part of that, and this would be a huge boost for them if they were to bring Fitbit into Alphabet and into Google. That'd be huge. It's not official yet, but right now there's all kinds of things going on with Fitbit's stock, and we won't get into the stock side of things, but it's definitely making some waves, so I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about later on today on Digital Trends. But let's bring you up to date on a couple other trending stories that are happening right now, and these are things that we saw today. This is a story you're going to see a lot of places, and it has to do with let me get it right, a space selfie balloon that crashed in Michigan. Yes, a Samsung space selfie balloon. Here's the story on this. So this was a Michigan home in Nancy Mumby Wilk of Gratiot County, Michigan. So Nancy found this in her tree, and they subsequently drug it down from the tree. But that is a space selfie satellite that Samsung had launched. So this was part of a promotional thing that Samsung was doing, where the whole idea was that you could have your selfie possibly shown with the Earth in the background. So it's not a traditional satellite; it's a balloon one, but it went high enough up to where you were supposed to be getting Earth in the background. You could actually see the globe, and yeah, see there it is, actually right there. Yeah, utilizing that balloon. Cara Delevingne, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but you know who I'm talking about. She actually was part of this campaign where she took a selfie, and then the phone was mounted on this thing, went all the way up, and then you're supposed to see a picture of her with the Earth in the background on the phone. There was a contest where you could go to a website and enter in your own picture to potentially get your own picture as a selfie with the Earth in the background. And didn't work out so well. So this ended up crashing to the Earth. Now Samsung is saying, oh yeah, we did that on purpose. We intentionally sent it down into a rural area. I'm gonna guess that's not entirely true. Luckily, no one was hurt, just to make sure that's clear. Nobody was hurt with this thing. But that is a big story that's going on right now, of finding a Samsung space selfie satellite in your backyard. That's something that you would not expect to see every day. But that's a trending story. Wanted to bring you up to date on that. Check it out at digitaltrends.com. Another trending story that is happening right now, and again, we've got a few here. These end up having to do with space technology, and I'm doing that because we're leading into a show about space here coming up in just a minute. But let's talk about this. So another big story has to do with the U.S. Air Force and a very secretive space plane that they have. Well, it's secretive in the fact that we don't know what it's doing, but we do know that it's up there. And so this is something called the X-37B, the X-37B. And this is a plane made by Boeing. It looks really similar to the old space shuttle, but this one is unmanned. There's nobody that's in this thing. It's autonomous, but it continues to set records for being in orbit for extremely long periods of time before safely landing back down at the Air Force. And that actually base where it landed is the one where the space shuttle used to land itself in Florida. So here's what it did. So part of the news on this is that it was just in orbit for 780 days, and that breaks a record that it had already set before. So it broke the record by 63 days for the longest orbiting spacecraft that can land again. So that's kind of how it is. So there's a couple of things with this. Again, we know what it looks like. We see videos of that. That's certainly come out before, and it looks pretty cool. But what it does is part of a lot of mysteries. There's certainly some conspiracy theories that come up about this thing on what it is doing in space. The Air Force says that it's up there for a couple of things. Barbara Barrett, who's Secretary of the Air Force, said in a statement that it is there to demonstrate the importance of a reusable space plane. We certainly know that. That's a big deal for all, whether it's governmental space travel, commercial space travel, no matter where you're at, reusability is the key. That's how we're going to be able to send all of these things up, bring them back down. It lowers the cost. It's huge. So this is definitely a really good demonstration of that. And also, they're saying that it's being used to test and conduct different scientific experiments up in space, including avionics, flight systems, guidance and navigation, thermal protection, insulation, propulsion, and re-entry systems, to give the list that they actually provided. So that's from the official U.S. Air Force statement. The previous mission, which was from December 2012 to 2014, they did 640 days. Then they did another one of 717 days. This one being 780 days is how long this one has been up there. So actually originally launched in September 2017. It's been orbiting this entire time and then came down. The conspiracy theory side, let's just say you can go down a whole rabbit hole of what that is, whether there's conspiracies that it's there to spy on the Chinese space station that they have up there, or that it's launching satellites, or that it's part of some kind of warfare. You know, who knows? It is the Air Force. We don't know exactly what they're doing for it, but I think the key thing there is just being in space for that long of a period of time and re-landing. That is a huge technological achievement, and each time they try to push that further and further. I think that's a good sign of, if they're doing that, and at least that's what we know about, where we're going to be going when it comes to our space planes or our craft that we send up there. Just seeing the advancements in that is huge, and I think that's a really important story to follow along with, but interesting nonetheless. That is the news. You can read that at digitaltrends.com. And the final thing I'm going to bring up here, and then we're going to take a break and we'll come back, has to do with the commercial side of space travel and SpaceX making an announcement, kind of a double announcement that they made. The first part of it being that they are going to be testing the Crew Dragon capsule this week. So it's anticipated it's actually going to be maybe Saturday, but they have to dial that in. But sometime this week, where they're going to be testing this out. Now, the Crew Dragon capsule is the one that's going to take astronauts to the space station and then ideally beyond, where they'll go from there. Something that's very important for this is the ability to test this and actually keep the astronauts safe if something goes wrong. And so they tested this out last year. There was a fiery explosion. There's obviously no astronauts in it, and proving that it wasn't quite ready. So they're going to be testing it again now. And the idea is if this is going up into space, something happens to the rocket, say, it's something devastating, they would be able to launch off of this and jet off of that and then safely land on their own. So it's an escape system. And that's what they're going to be testing out. Now, if that goes successfully, we could originally it was talked about that it was going to be this year that they were going to be sending up the astronauts in this. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to guess that time frame's pushed back a little bit, but they say pretty soon they'll be able to do it. So maybe next year. Further than that, they also made a statement talking about, and this was SpaceX President and COO Gwynne Shotwell, who said that they want to land a Starship rocket on the moon by 2022 to start sending cargo, and then they want to land people on there by 2024. So they're saying within 5 years, they will be landing people on the moon for this base that they want to create. We'll see where it goes, but that's a bunch of news that came out about SpaceX. You can follow along with that at digitaltrends.com. Here's what's happening now. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to send us to New York, where we are going to be talking to 3 of the actors from this impending Apple TV Plus series, For All Mankind. I am really excited about this series. I think it's really fascinating. It's a relook at history to where if the U.S. hadn't won the space race getting to the moon first, if the Soviets had, and what that would mean. So it's a reimagining, but kind of thinking where things could have gone. Really interesting, and certainly interesting also because it's going to be one of the first shows on Apple TV Plus, which on the tech side of things is a huge deal. So excited to take a look at that and send you to that. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler here in our Portland, Oregon studio, and I thank everybody who's joining us. So we are live. You can drop in your comments and questions as we go throughout the show. We broadcast every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and we talk a lot about trending technology. And certainly this week, one of the big things that's going to be talked about is Apple TV Plus. It is launching this week, the first of a couple of services launching this month, but Apple TV Plus really going to be making a big bang with it. And one of the shows that's going to be launching with that is called For All Mankind, and it's a reimagining of what happened with the space race. I'm really excited about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited about this show. It's right up my alley, and we're going to have a fascinating interview right now because we're going to head to our New York studio where we have 3 of the actors from this show who are joining Anna Sterling right now, and I'm going to pass it off to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Greg. That's right. I'm here with 3 of the members of the cast of the new Apple TV Plus show For All Mankind. The premise of the show being, what would history look like if the USSR beat the US in putting a man on the moon first? Joining me today, we have Michael Dorman, Chantal Von Santon, and Ren Schmidt. Thank you all for joining me today.
Thanks for having us here.
Okay, so this is a brand new show. So tell me a little bit about the characters you each play and their role in this alternate history.
Right. I play an astronaut, and I guess my character gives us a window into not just what astronauts were doing at the time, alternate history aside, but into the lives of like an astronaut family and just the differences. Like, you want to talk about the differences with my relationship and with your
Yeah,
relationship?
you want me to talk about your relationship?
Yeah. So now Chantal's going to tell you
great,
about my
great.
relationship.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I play Karen Baldwin, which Ed and Karen are kind of the, I would say, poster child power couple, follow the rules, like the ones that everybody looks up to, and
Ours
these
is a
two
bit more
yahoos.
explosive,
Yeah.
Ours is a bit more passionate. They're like, I look at our relationship.
Well, I mean, we
as
have passion.
a lot of passion, but you look at their relationship on screen, it's like storybook, beautiful. Ours is a little bit more tumultuous.
Yeah?
A little bit more turbulence in the relationship.
I mean, the coolest part is that within the, within NASA and within the grounds of what they're doing, and for instance, having Karen and Ed and having Ed be an astronaut, I think we
It's played by Joel
see,
Cooley.
yes, and I think we see that relationships aren't always what they seem, and lives aren't always what, are painted at first, and the writers do an amazing job at kind of unraveling everybody throughout the stories and the
it's not
episodes.
spoon-fed.
Yeah.
Kind of just, there's the world, it's happening, and then you're like a fly on the wall watching it happen, and slowly it unravels. It's very clever.
I always think when we describe our characters, I love that people would think, okay, she's a housewife, okay, they're an astronaut, okay, let's put a label, because they do an amazing job of breaking all the labels and barriers. So I'm always like, sure, think that's what you want, you know what I mean? And then we'll go and prove you very differently and find ways to make you relate to each character.
Yeah, humanize everyone, but every character is well-rounded. It's wonderfully written.
Yeah.
And I play Margot Madison, who's the first female in Mission Control, which is a lot of fun to play. When you meet her, she's a woman kind of wearing a series of handcuffs based on kind of like military protocol and needing to stay in certain lanes, and then also being a female in a very male-dominated world. Mission Control is kind of like a sea of guys, white guys in white dress shirts with black ties. And then there's also, I would say, so there's the gender piece of the puzzle, and then also she's the protege of Werner von Braun. So she doesn't necessarily want to be seen kind of as like Werner's girl. So she's kind of like towing a lot of different lines, and what makes that a lot of fun to play is that she's bad at it, mostly because she's very good at her job, and she's really, really smart. So...
She's the smart one of the bunch.
Yeah. No.
That's great. And what drew each of you to this project and to the roles that you're playing?
For me, it was the story of the relationship between my wife, played by Sarah Jones, and my character, and just the way that those two navigate the fame, and then the household, and then the sacrifices, and then it was just a story that I thought would be really interesting to play.
Yeah, I think I was drawn to the character in a different sense, because Karen, in my mind in the beginning, was nothing like me, and I could lose myself in the period piece and lose myself in a role that didn't have any similarities to my own life, and not something I understood and I could really sink into. And then knowing and trusting Ron Moore and Matt and Ben and our whole writing staff to craft beautiful story and just kind of be along for the ride surprised me more in the end, that I found similarities between myself and Karen, because I never would have ever expected that. But I think also the exciting idea of working for Apple and a new platform, and them standing behind something is really exciting too.
We'll definitely want to touch more about that a little later.
I was really into the character and into the writing. I mean, I feel like it's one thing to read a script and it's another thing for me to work on the material. So reading it, I was like, this is really interesting, but actually like trying it out. Like that's the thing for me, that it's like if things start happening with me just like alone in a room messing around with material,
Right.
or if it's just immediately like interesting to me, which this was. I mean, the first scene that I worked on is in the first episode, and it's a scene where Margot's in a backup room and she's supporting all of these other people, and an alarm goes off and she knows the answer and nobody else does, and she's like, and just playing that and having to do all the research to understand like the information that she's giving the other person, I was like losing my mind. I was so excited. I was rehearsing like in my bedroom, and then I would come out and like see my husband and be like, this is so cool, did you know about this and this and this and this, oh my god, and there's this thing, and space, and then I would like go back,
I know,
so
space stuff.
so that was like the moment that I was like, I really want this job.
Yeah.
I really want this job.
Feel that inspired to where you are. You
Yeah.
think about it and you live it, and you have to learn things like women back then could not, I thought about your character, could not get a credit card without a husband's approval. And when I was doing my research, it was one of the first things I learned, and I thought, oh, so I'm sorry, Margot can't get a credit card and I have to go to Ed to ask him if I can have a credit card? This is not okay. And like, you know, just learning those things and the progress we have made and being able to tell a story that's kind of rounded out.
Yeah, and speaking about this reimagined history, what was it like playing in this space, and kind of, you know, like you were saying, women in the show were getting a chance to, you know, take a leadership role, but at the same time, it was still really backwards. So what was it like being in that space as an actor?
Didn't feel all that different.
Yeah.
You know, like there's definitely like progress happening in different ways, but at least for Margot's still fighting a lot of the same fights that I feel like were being fought in that era. You know, and it's just like a different version of them. Like she's still bumping up against, you know, like the boys club, and she's still bumping up against, I don't know, just the fact that people thought like women in mission control or even in like those like fields that they were a distraction. You know, like that's. So I don't know if it was really all that different. It's just kind of looking at it a different angle, at least for Margot. I think it's different for.
Well, yeah, no, I had a similar experience. I guess our relationship that Sarah and I play is a little bit more progressive for the time. It wasn't completely equal. Like the character I play, Gordo, gets to chase his dreams, and Sarah's character, she sort of has to put hers on the back burner. So there's a little bit of a power shift in a sense where it's not equal in the household, but definitely not the way that relationships were structured.
Typically back then.
Typically in the 50s, 60s. So it was similar for me as well. I had a similar thing where it was quite current.
Well, I guess what I was alluding to is the astronaut program.
Well, oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the females enter that
Yeah.
earlier.
And did you learn anything, or was anything really surprising about, you know, NASA and just this whole time period for you when you were researching this?
We didn't learn anything.
Yeah, no, I feel like
knew everything.
I thought, yeah.
We knew it all.
Yeah, no. You start to do research, and you go down like rabbit holes of stuff that's really exciting. And I mean, I tried to understand a lot about the program as well because, you know, being a part of it in a different way, I still would have known a lot of things.
Right.
So now I'm doing research about astronauts because I need to understand my husband. I need to, like, it was, you know, I have binders of just notes. And also you're learning about the history because you weren't alive and how that would have affected you. Did I vote for this president? Do I support what's happening? What's this? And how does, because in NASA, politics got affected as well. And there's a lot more to it than just this, like, it's that ripple effect of had I gone right or had I gone left, like what would have happened. And it doesn't just change that one thing, it changes everything after that.
Yeah, not landing the moon.
Yeah. The stakes were a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking a little bit about Apple TV Plus, tell me what it was like. I mean, you guys are in a pioneering space. It's a brand new thing. Was it intimidating at all being part of this rollout?
I mean, we're just feels like we're going to the moon, right? It's fine. I mean, when we were shooting, I don't think it felt any different than any other production, other than the scale of it.
The scale.
Yeah, the scale, like having,
like the-
you know, a moon with, like, you know, the limb on it, and it's fine. There's stuff like that that's like, wow, what?
Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Go on, go on.
No, but even Mocha, like the set that's built to scale. Dan Bishop was the production designer, did an amazing job. But then just the access to, funds to
Wow.
create these worlds.
So they didn't
You could
skimp
probably
on
talk
they
better
didn't skimp
about
on
it.
anything in the production.
No.
But I don't think it's until now that we kind of feel like the support and everything in the rollout. I mean, at the time when you're shooting, you're so in that creative space. And we walked around set the very first day, and we all were just speechless looking around. Like,
Yeah, it was exciting.
wow,
eh?
okay, are we in the major leagues? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And as actors, when you're considering a project, it comes to you. How important is the platform when you're making your decision about whether you want to get involved in something?
For me, if I'm working, I'm thankful. So,
It's a good attitude.
if someone's like, it's going to be on this platform or that platform, I'm happy to be working. It's more about the people that I'm working with. If I'm honest, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, there's so many
absolutely.
platforms, and in my experience, if I get to play and it's with good people, then I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. What
I
about
mean,
both
I
of you?
feel the same way. I feel like it's more about the creatives that are involved in crafting story and characters. But obviously, there was an appeal to hearing that it was going to be one of Apple's first shows, and you're like, that's exciting. It's also scary, of course, because we don't know. Yeah, and it's so unknown. You're like, I don't know, but let's do it. Like this is going to be something new, and just embrace it.
Doing anything for the first time is great. It's a little bit, you kind of get a little freaked, but
So
it
on
is
brand
exciting.
with the show as well.
Yeah, it is exciting.
It is.
So.
That's how. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I was so into the writing. I feel like that's where it always starts for me because I
Right.
feel like that's the foundation for everything. So if that's really strong, then usually I'm like, I want to do more of that. And then you just hope for the best because, where something starts isn't necessarily where it ends. But then also I feel like Apple, they do so much that I feel like is considered groundbreaking. And they've, even just when you think about the fact that we all now walk around with computers in our pockets, I just thought like whatever they're going to be doing, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you
know,
guys get swag being
so-
part of the Apple family?
They're very
Yeah.
kind.
They are. They are. They're very generous, and we're very grateful.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Were
Especially
they?
for baby photos and
Oh yeah. I have a 4-month-old.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So Marga's
Capture
very
it all.
career driven,
Yes.
and she's like, "Babies, no way!" And I'm like, "This is very interesting."
It is.
Yeah,
I think
total
it's
opposites.
incredible though.
and were they involved at all in the production or kind of the vision of the series, or is Apple really hands off?
I don't think. I mean, I don't think we get to know that, but I hear that Tim Cook watches. I hope he does. I think that they're more hands-on with the producers and creators than coming to set and giving us notes or anything. But
then if you've got someone like Ron Moore,
yeah.
I mean, it's in good hands from the start. So, yeah.
Okay, so this is a really important question. There's 3 main people in today's version of the space race: Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin, and Elon Musk with SpaceX. Who would you go to space with?
Who would ever choose me? If I raise
No,
my
you gotta
hand and
make a
they're like
choice.
you.
Would you be able to conduct a little interview? Can I do that? Can I sit and have a little interview with all 3 of them? Because I mean, how long am I going to be?
We'll be here for that
in
interview.
confined spaces for? And I want to know who
Someone
I'm rolling
interesting.
with.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you know
You
what I
want to
mean? Yeah.
do it like a job interview almost.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Also, who's going to go first? Maybe I want to go second. I'll let whoever's going to go first go and do the trial run, and then I'll go with whoever's going to go second.
Okay, cool.
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
No, I don't know. I feel like I'm like such like the stick in the mud about this. I feel like exploration for the sake of science is so interesting to me, but I also feel like it's so expensive, and I really wish that if those people have those kinds of funds, that they would do something that would help with climate change or people that need clean water to drink, or I don't know. That's just me.
No,
It's
that's-
it's so expensive to get up there. If it's about like progress and being able to figure out how like some technology works so that, you know, something's more efficient here, and then that makes sense to me. But
That is an
otherwise,
extremely reasonable answer.
Which is what happens in our show, you know,
Yeah.
in a sense.
It all comes back full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Sorry.
lose the moon, and then
No.
you know,
it's like the
technology
wah, wah,
advances,
wah
and,
user.
you know, at a rapid rate and so early. It's
Well, on that note, I'm going to thank you all for joining us today.
thanks
We are
for having
so
us.
excited to have you here. So again, the show is For All Mankind, exclusively Apple TV Plus. It debuts November 1st, this Friday. Make sure you check it out. Sending it back to you in Portland, Greg.
All right, thank you so much, Anna. That was a great interview. So fascinating. Can't wait to watch that show. And thank you to everybody who joined us for that. Again, this is part of the fun, though, of Digital Trends Live. We get to talk to, look, 3 actors who are in the first show, one of the first shows launching on Apple TV Plus. That's pretty incredible. So let's do this. Let's talk about tomorrow. So every day here, we broadcast live, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We keep you up to date, and in addition to interviews like that, on all the tech headlines and news that happens, even breaking news throughout the show. This is what we get to do. Tomorrow on the show, though, talking about some streaming services, we have Dan May from Painting Practice, and he worked on some of the visual effects for his Dark Materials, the new show from HBO that is going to be huge. I've already read some of the reviews our Rick Marshall has. It's amazing. The world building that goes on with it is just incredible, and Dan's going to be here on the show talking about that. Really, really fascinating stuff. We also have John Velasco, our smart home editor, who's going to be on from New York as well, in addition to lots of other content and lots of other interviews and lots of other up-to-date news. We don't even know what we're going to talk about tomorrow entirely because it's all going to be happening, and we will be bringing you up to date with it as it happens. That's the great part about this show, and that we are live, and so we appreciate everybody for joining us. Thanks for tuning in, and hit that subscribe button. We'll be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.